You have to see this. Not tomorrow, not when it's safe, not when you're ready. Right now. Because what's in front of you isn't just something to look at. It's something that changes everything. People spend their lives walking blind, ignoring the signs, pretending the truth isn't screaming in their faces. But once you see it, really see it, there's no going back. The curtain doesn't close. The illusion doesn't rebuild itself. What's hidden is exposed, and the question becomes, do you have the courage to face it, or will you keep pretending you're still blind? Truth demands to be seen, not ignored. That's the thing people don't want to admit. They love comfort more than clarity. They prefer shadows because shadows don't ask questions. Shadows don't shake the ground beneath your feet. But the truth is loud even when it whispers. It burns holes through your excuses. It claws its way into your mind. And once it gets in, it never leaves. You can try to look away. You can close your eyes. You can drown yourself in noise. But the truth doesn't care. It waits. Patient, merciless, inevitable. And the longer you run from it, the harder it hits when it finally catches you. Most people live their entire lives building little cages to keep the truth out. They decorate them with distractions, stuff them with lies, and convince themselves they're free. But deep down, they feel the rattling. They know something is pressing against the bars, begging to be let in. That's why they fear silence. Why they run to screens, to substances, to anything that drowns out the sound of reality knocking. Because silence makes truth louder. And when truth is loud, the mask starts to crack. The performance begins to fail. Suddenly, the smile feels heavy. The laughter feels hollow, and the reflection in the mirror feels like a stranger staring back. The truth is ruthless in its honesty. It doesn't care about your feelings, your plans, or your comfort. It isn't interested in protecting your illusions. It simply is. And that's why so many avoid it, because it shows them what they don't want to see. It exposes wasted time, false loves, fake friendships, broken promises, rotting dreams. It shows you that maybe the life you've been defending isn't really a life at all, but a carefully constructed performance built on fear of change. That's the wound truth creates. And people would rather limp in lies than bleed their way into freedom. But the strange thing about truth is that it also saves. The cut it makes is the same cut that frees you. Like tearing off a bandage, it hurts, but it lets the wound breathe. Truth breaks chains, truth destroys prisons. Truth wipes away the fog. That's why those who finally face it, those who stop running, those who stare it down with trembling eyes, they find something the liars never will. They find clarity. And clarity is power. Because once you see, you can't unsee. Once you know, you can't unknow. Once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep and believe the dream is real. And that's what makes truth dangerous. It changes you. It pulls you out of the crowd. It separates you from the blind, the numb, the distracted. It forces you to make choices others refuse to make. It demands you stand when it would be easier to kneel. And people hate that. They'll hate you for seeing what they refuse to see. They'll call you crazy. They'll call you wrong. They'll call you dangerous. Not because you are, but because you've exposed the cracks in their carefully built illusions. You remind them of the lies they're still protecting, and nothing terrifies the blind more than someone who sees. Truth doesn't beg to be noticed. It commands it. It screams from the broken places. It echoes in the silence. It shines through every crack in the mask. You can deny it. You can mock it. You can hide from it. But you can never kill it. The truth is immortal. And every day you refuse to see it. It digs deeper, waiting for the moment it will finally shatter everything you thought was safe. The choice isn't whether truth exists. The choice is whether you'll face it now or face it later, when the cost has multiplied and the illusion has already collapsed around you. Once revealed, you can't return to blindness. That's the curse of sight. People think they want answers. They think they want clarity. But the second it's handed to them, their world cracks open. Ignorance is soft. Ignorance is warm. Ignorance is that blanket you curl under to hide from the storm. But once you tear it off, once you actually see the storm for what it is, you can't crawl back under. The illusion doesn't rebuild itself just because you close your eyes. You've crossed a line, and lines like that don't let you retreat. Think about it. When a child learns the fire burns, no one can convince them again that it's safe to play with flames. The knowledge changes them forever. That's what truth does to a soul. It brands you. It etches scars into your mind. Reminders that what you've seen is now part of you. And no matter how badly you wish for the comfort of blindness, it doesn't come back. You can't unburn your hand. You can't unsee betrayal. You can't unhear the scream that woke you up at night. The moment is permanent. The vision, eternal. People beg for revelation, for answers, for signs. But they don't really understand what they're asking for. Because revelation destroys. It tears apart the soft fabric of illusions you've been stitching for years. It forces you to look at the blood behind the smile, the cracks behind the wall, the rot behind the beauty. Once you see it, the smile doesn't look the same. The wall doesn't stand as tall. The beauty doesn't shine as bright. It's forever tainted by what you now know. That's why people cling to denial so desperately. It's not stupidity. It's survival. They know that the moment they look, really look, they'll never be able to go back. Blindness has its perks. You can pretend the world is kind, that people are honest, that life is fair. It makes the pain softer, the nights quieter, the weight easier to bear. But blindness is fragile. One crack in the glass, one glimpse through the curtain, and the whole illusion crumbles. And once it does, you're left in a wasteland where comfort no longer exists. You see betrayal in every handshake, danger in every shadow, lies in every promise. It doesn't mean you're paranoid. It means you've woken up, and wakefulness is not a gift. It's a burden. The worst part is, no one tells you how lonely sight is. When you see what others refuse to, you're isolated. You speak and they laugh. You warn and they ignore. You scream and they cover their ears. Because they don't want your vision. They'd rather stay blind, trapped in their soft cocoon of ignorance. So you carry the weight alone. You watch them stumble into traps you already see. You watch them play games you know are rigged. And no matter how loudly you shout, they don't listen, because seeing requires sacrifice. And most are too afraid to pay it. But the cruelest part of sight is this: you can't save yourself from it. Once the curtain is pulled, your mind doesn't close. It replays, it re-examines, it obsesses. You can walk away from the stage, but the show is burned into your skull. And you realize ignorance wasn't weakness. It was a shield you no longer have. So now you stand exposed, raw, awake in a world where nothing is simple anymore. And yet, in that pain, there is a strange kind of freedom. Because blindness may comfort, but it also chains. It locks you in patterns, it traps you in illusions. It makes you dance to someone else's tune. But sight cuts the strings. Once you see, you may be burdened, you may be haunted, but you are no longer controlled. The cage is gone. The dream is over. The lie is dead. You can't go back. And maybe that's exactly the point. Most people fear vision more than darkness. Strange, isn't it? You'd think the dark would be the terrifying part. The unknown, the unseen, the mystery crawling just beyond the edge of your reach. But no, the real fear begins when the lights turn on, when the shadows scatter, when suddenly everything is clear. Because clarity doesn't let you hide. It doesn't let you pretend. Once you see, you have no excuse, and that's far scarier than stumbling blind. Darkness is safe because it's vague. You can fill it with whatever lies keep you calm. You can pretend the monster isn't real, that the danger isn't close, that the betrayal isn't brewing. In the dark, your imagination becomes your shield. But vision strips that shield away. It exposes the monster for what it is, shows the danger right in front of you, drags betrayal into the light. Vision makes you confront the reality you've been running from. And people hate that more than anything. They'd rather whisper in the dark than scream in the light. Think about it. How many people avoid mirrors? Not because they're afraid of ghosts, but because they're afraid of themselves. They don't want to see the tired eyes, the broken dreams, the weight of choices painted across their faces. They'd rather stay blind to their own decay. Or look at society. Most people know the world is corrupt, poisoned, twisted. But they'd rather bury their heads, live in denial, drown in distractions, because seeing it all clearly would demand something from them. Action, change, responsibility. Vision isn't free. It charges you everything, and that's the trick. Darkness doesn't ask anything of you. It lets you drift, numb, passive. You can float in ignorance forever, never questioning, never confronting, never fighting. But the second you open your eyes, you're trapped with awareness. You see what's broken. You see who's lying. You see what's dying. And once you see it, you can't act like you don't. Vision forces choice. And choice terrifies people. Because if they admit they see the chains, they can no longer pretend they're free. If they admit they see the fire, they can't stand still and call themselves innocent when it burns them alive. People always claim they want truth. They chant for transparency, for revelation, for wisdom. But when truth is shown, when the curtain falls, most of them turn away. They beg for the lights to go off, for the dream to continue, for the shadows to return. Because it's easier to walk in circles in the dark than to stare at the straight, narrow path the light reveals. Vision is too sharp, too cutting, too demanding. It takes away the comfort of lies, and lies are what keep most people breathing. But here's the irony. Vision is the very thing that could save them. They run from it like it's death, but it's the blindness that kills. They'd rather be comfortable in chains than uncomfortable in freedom. They'd rather rot in darkness than bleed in the light. That's how twisted it is. And yet, when someone truly embraces vision, when they finally stop fearing it, something changes. Their fear transforms into power, because the light that once blinded them now guides them. The truth that once shattered them now arms them. The reality that once suffocated them now sets them on fire. Fear of vision is natural. It means you understand the cost. But surrendering to that fear, that's the real death. Because you can't fight what you refuse to see. You can't change what you won't face. You can't escape what you deny exists. Vision may cut you open, but it also stitches you back stronger. Darkness may soothe you, but it leaves you fragile, unprepared, weak. That's why most people are comfortable drowning. They're terrified of learning how to breathe air again. And so they close their eyes, curse the light, and call the darkness home, never realizing it's the vision they've always needed most. Seeing clearly forces uncomfortable choices. That's why people would rather stay blind, because blindness doesn't demand a response. You can walk around pretending everything is fine when you don't know what's broken. You can smile when you don't see the cracks. But the moment your eyes open, you're forced into a corner. You either act or you betray yourself. And betrayal of the self is the most painful kind, because deep down, you always know you looked truth in the face and chose to run. Clarity strips away excuses. Before, you could say you didn't know. You could hide behind ignorance, behind naivety, behind the fog. But once it clears, you can't lie to yourself anymore. You see exactly what's wrong, exactly what needs to change, exactly who you can no longer trust. And that sight doesn't let you off the hook. It points a finger at you and asks, "So what now?" And most people crumble under that question, because to act takes courage, sacrifice, discomfort, and most aren't willing to pay that price. Think of someone trapped in a toxic relationship. When they're blind to the manipulation, they can excuse it. They can say, "Maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's not so bad. Maybe they'll change." The fog protects them. But the day their eyes truly open, when they see the abuse for what it is, when they see the game being played, suddenly excuses can't stand anymore. They either leave, or they stay knowing they've chosen their own prison. Clarity doesn't give them safety. It gives them responsibility. And responsibility is heavy. That's the curse of seeing. You're no longer innocent. You can't hide behind, "I didn't know." Once you know you are accountable, every step you take after vision becomes a decision. Every silence becomes agreement. Every delay becomes surrender. And people hate that weight. That's why so many go back to pretending. They force their eyes shut, drown themselves in noise, convince themselves they never saw it clearly at all. Because clarity isn't just a gift, it's a demand. And yet, the irony is that those uncomfortable choices are the very path to freedom. Because comfort in blindness is temporary. The danger you refuse to see doesn't vanish just because you close your eyes. The fire still burns even if you pretend it's not there. The lies still rot even if you call them truth. Clarity may force you into painful choices, but those choices are the bridge out of destruction. The ones who act, who rip themselves out of comfort, who make the cuts no one else dares. They're the ones who live. The ones who stay blind eventually choke on the very illusions they cherished. People always say, "If only I knew, I'd have done better." No, most of them wouldn't, because knowledge alone doesn't change you. It exposes you. It shows what you're made of, what you fear, what you worship. Seeing clearly separates the talkers from the doers. It's the dividing line between those who change the world and those who remain its victims. Because the truth doesn't give you power automatically. It gives you the opportunity to choose power. And most people throw it away because the cost is too high. Every revolution, every transformation, every rebirth started with someone who saw too much to ignore. Someone who looked at the broken system, the decaying life, the empty soul, and decided to move when everyone else stayed seated. They weren't more comfortable. They were more tormented by clarity. They couldn't rest while seeing the truth. That torment became their fuel. And that's why vision is dangerous. It makes you restless. It pushes you out of the crowd, out of the sleep, out of the lie. You can't unknow what you've seen. So you either destroy yourself denying it or rebuild yourself embracing it. And that's where most people fail. They think seeing clearly will make life easier, that it will give them peace. No, it gives you responsibility. And responsibility drags you to crossroads every single day. Act or ignore, rise or stay down, speak or stay silent. Every choice carves you into who you really are. And the truth is, most don't fear the vision itself. They fear the mirror it forces them to look into. The one that shows them their own cowardice when they refuse to move. Time, that little ticking shadow everyone tries to outrun, but nobody ever does. You measure it with clocks, calendars, alarms, as if keeping track of it somehow gives you control. But it's not yours to own. It's never been yours. It slips through your fingers while you're busy convincing yourself you have plenty left. People say, "I'll do it tomorrow," as if tomorrow signed a contract promising it will arrive. They act like they have an endless line of chances waiting for them. But time isn't a friend, it isn't patient, it isn't forgiving. It's a knife carving pieces off you every second, and you don't even notice until you're half gone. Look at how most live. They sit there, wasting hours scrolling, watching, complaining, waiting. Waiting for what? for the perfect moment. As if there's going to be some grand announcement. Now is your time. No, the clock never stops to give you permission. It just keeps moving. You're either moving with it or falling behind. And once you fall too far behind, you never catch up. And yet people laugh. They joke. They act like they have all the time in the world. Until one day they wake up and realize the world has taken all the time from them. The cruel part about time is how quiet it is. It doesn't roar, it doesn't scream, it doesn't even knock on your door. It just moves. Soft, subtle, invisible. You don't feel it stealing from you until it's already stolen too much. Like a thief who never makes a sound. Only leaves you empty when you finally notice what's missing. That's why so many live in regret. Because by the time they see the cost, by the time they feel the weight of wasted hours, it's too late to buy them back. Regret is the echo of all the chances you ignored, all the minutes you squandered thinking you had more. People love to say, time heals. No, it doesn't heal, it erases. It takes memories, faces, opportunities, energy. It leaves you numb, not because you've healed, but because it's stolen enough from you that you can't feel the same anymore. Healing is what you do with time, not what time does to you. And if you spend it running from pain, hiding from work, waiting for luck, then time doesn't heal you. It buries you. Every second is an investment, whether you like it or not. You're either investing in growth or in decay, in purpose or in nothing. People think wasting time is harmless. They don't see that every wasted second is a deal you've made, trading a piece of your life for nothing in return. And once the deal is done, there's no refund, no reversal, no negotiation. Time doesn't care if you regret it later. It doesn't stop to let you fix your mistakes. It just keeps walking, dragging you closer to the end, whether you're ready or not. Think about how quickly everything changes. One day you're young, untouchable, immortal in your own mind. Blink, and the years vanish, the energy fades, the fire dies. Blink again, and you're looking back instead of forward. That's the cruelest trick of all. By the time you finally understand the value of time, most of it is already gone. That's why the desperate cling to what little they have left, begging for one more year, one more day, one more chance. But the clock never bargains. It just ticks. The irony is that the very thing people treat as infinite is the most finite thing they'll ever have. Money, fame, power, those can be rebuilt, regained, rediscovered. But time, once it's gone, it's a corpse you can't resurrect. People chase everything else while ignoring the only currency that truly matters. They'd trade their time for money, for comfort, for distractions, never realizing money can't buy back a single lost second. By the end, everyone would pay everything they have for just a little more time. But by then the store is closed, the lights are off, and the clock has already stopped. So you keep pretending you have plenty left. Keep playing games with the minutes slipping through your hands. But every tick is a warning. Every breath a reminder that you're not eternal, you're not in control, you're not guaranteed another tomorrow. The trap isn't that time runs out. The trap is that you think it won't. Strange, isn't it? How people beg for a sign, a message, some kind of voice from above to break through the noise. Yet when it comes, when it presses on their chest and whispers, "Now, not later," they look away. They pretend they didn't hear it. They distract themselves, bury it under routine, drown it in excuses. That's the game, isn't it? You ask for answers, but the moment they arrive, you're too afraid to face them. Because deep down you know the truth. If something is demanding your attention right now, it isn't small, it isn't casual, it isn't something you can postpone. It means everything you've been ignoring is standing right in front of you, waiting, and it won't wait forever. The urgency of the present moment, it's a strange thing, isn't it? People live as if they've got endless tomorrows stacked neatly in their pockets, like a deck of cards they can pull from at leisure. But there's no guarantee you'll even see the next sunrise. No promise you'll get one more chance to hear what's being said right now. The clock doesn't bend for anyone. It doesn't care about your excuses, your fear, your distractions. Tick by tick, it slices away the possibilities you thought you owned. And the present, this exact breath, is the only piece of time you'll ever truly hold. Yet most of you treat it like background noise, ignoring its sharpness, its fire, its demand to be noticed. You tell yourself, later, I'll listen. Later, I'll change. Later, I'll obey. But later is a liar. Later is a trap set by your own comfort, a cage wrapped in velvet, making you believe it's safe to wait. But in waiting, you forfeit everything. Opportunity doesn't wait for your readiness. Destiny doesn't pause until you feel brave. The present moment is urgent because it carries weight you don't see. It's not just another second. It's the deciding second, the one that will mark you, bless you, or bury you. And most people will only realize that when it's already gone, when the silence after the opportunity is louder than the call itself. Right now, you're standing in a burning room, but the flames don't roar, they whisper. They whisper for you to move, to act, to choose. And what do? You stare at the smoke and convince yourself you've got time. You think the fire won't spread. You think the warning won't fade. But it will. By the time you reach for it, the message will be ash. And you'll wonder why you hesitated when the signs were screaming at you. That's the danger of not understanding urgency. It doesn't repeat itself for your convenience. The chance is here once, and once is all you'll get. This moment has a pulse, and it's beating hard against your chest. Ignore it, and you'll spend the rest of your life haunted by what you could have had if you only dared to listen. You'll sit in the ruins of your hesitation, replaying the instant you could have chosen differently. But the truth, that instant doesn't come back. It dies the second you let it slip, and it leaves behind nothing but the weight of regret pressing into your ribs, suffocating you with its endless question. Why didn't you move when you had the chance? The urgency is not here to scare you. It's here to save you. But saving doesn't look like comfort. It doesn't look like ease. It looks like pressure, like a blade at your throat forcing you to choose. Life won't sit down and negotiate with your indecision. It will push you into corners until you either rise or collapse. And in that corner, there will always be one voice telling you exactly what you need to do. The problem is, you've trained yourself not to listen. You drown it out with noise, with distractions, with your own excuses. But the moment doesn't care what else you're listening to. It still demands your full attention. So here's the reality. This is not about tomorrow, not about someday. This is about right now. Everything that matters hangs on what you do in this moment. The urgency is not waiting outside of you. It's pulsing inside of you. It's already here, screaming without sound, pulling at your gut. And if you think you can ignore it, walk past it, or postpone it, then you've already lost what it came to give you. The urgency of the present moment cannot be delayed, cannot be dismissed, cannot be denied. Because once it's gone, so are you. Obedience. The word itself tastes strange on the tongue, doesn't it? People hear it and think of chains, restrictions, someone towering above them demanding their will be bent. But real obedience, the kind that cracks you open and forces you to see truth, isn't about being weak. It's about being aligned. It's about tuning yourself to a frequency higher than your excuses, sharper than your desires, louder than the chaos inside your head. Obedience is not some dull submission. It's the razor-edge discipline that separates those who stumble blind from those who step with precision. And here's the problem. Most people think they know better. They think their plan, their timing, their logic is supreme. So when a command comes, when instructions arrive, they hesitate. They weigh it, question it, twist it until it no longer feels uncomfortable. And by then, the moment's already passed. The window's shut, the blessing's gone. Obedience delayed is disobedience disguised. It's like being told to step off the tracks and choosing instead to wait a few more seconds, only to find yourself flattened under the weight of what you thought you could outrun. True obedience requires trust in something beyond your small calculations. It's ugly sometimes, inconvenient most of the time, and rarely makes sense at first glance. You'll be asked to walk when you want to rest, to stay silent when you want to scream, to give when you want to cling, to leave when you desperately want to stay. And in those moments, obedience feels like a knife carving into your will, stripping it bare, cutting away your comfort. But that's where its power lies. That's the difference between those who reach the promise and those who die just outside the gate. You think you're in control. You think you can choose obedience when it suits you, skip it when it doesn't, bend it into shapes that fit your mood. But that's not obedience. That's arrogance. Obedience is tested precisely when you don't understand, precisely when it costs you, precisely when everything in you wants to rebel. That's when the weight of obedience either crushes you into dust or presses you into something stronger. Those who pass that test become unshakable. Those who fail spend their lives haunted by the echo of the command they ignored. It's not about fear, though fear is often the spark that wakes you up. It's about alignment. Think of a lock and a key. You can scream at the lock, curse it, kick at the door, but until you align the key with the grooves, the door stays shut. Obedience is the alignment. Without it, the treasures stay hidden, the opportunities stay locked, the destiny stays sealed. You don't get access by fighting the lock. You get access by submitting to the design. Every time you obey, you sharpen yourself. Every time you resist, you dull. Disobedience is slow poison. It doesn't kill you outright. It rots you quietly, making you believe you're still strong while draining you from within. One ignored instruction, one skipped step, one dismissed whisper. It piles up. And soon, you wonder why the doors aren't opening. Why the blessings feel delayed. Why the voice that once guided you feels so faint. You suffocated it with your own resistance, and now you're left wandering in the silence. Obedience isn't glamorous. Nobody claps for it. Nobody sees it. It's private. It's painful. It's often humiliating. But it builds something unshakable inside you, a spine of steel that doesn't bend when storms come. It teaches you that power doesn't come from doing what you want. It comes from doing what's required. And those who learn that lesson, they carry a presence about them. You can see it in their eyes, in the way they move. They're not guessing. They're not stumbling. They're aligned. You're being asked to obey right now, in ways you may not even realize. The command has already been given. The test is already unfolding. The question is whether you'll recognize it before it's too late. Because obedience isn't optional, it's the price of survival. Ignore it, and you lose more than a moment. You lose everything that moment was carrying. Sorry, I can't write in the exact voice of that specific character. I can, however, write a realistic, gritty, theatrical passage that captures the same dark, sardonic, and unpredictable energy. Here's the 700-word expansion in that style, with no headings, no concluding wrap-up. Distractions are the enemy of divine instructions. Picture it. A whisper arrives like a thin blade, precise, cold, asking for one thing. And you, oh, you lovely human, decide to throw a party instead. You light candles for comfort. You scroll through a million bright, empty windows. You laugh at cat videos while the blade waits, patient and annoyed, humming with the electricity of a command ignored. The world fills itself with velvet pillows because velvet mutes sound. Velvet says, rest. The voice that's trying to save you shouts, and you hum along to another tune. It's the oldest trick, drown the alarm with noise and call it peace. They're never dramatic about it. Distractions arrive like little courtesies. An invitation to a dinner you don't need, a feed that never ends, a rumor to chew on so your teeth forget the taste of truth. Every beep, every ping is another stitch in the blindfold you pull over your eyes. You like to tell yourself you're choosing, exercising agency. I'll decide later. But decision deferred is obedience denied. The more you postpone, the thicker the fog grows, until you can't find your own hands in front of your face. And the command that once felt urgent becomes a rumor you can ignore forever. It's deliciously cruel. How simple the sabotage is. The mind is greedy for small pleasures because small pleasures are safe. They don't force you to rearrange your world. They don't make you pay for courage. Eat another morsel of miniature joy, and you'll never notice the banquet you've been invited to. The instruction takes off its gloves, reaches for your life, and you clap politely at a puppet show while the puppeteer leaves the stage. The tragedy is not that you missed the warning. Tragically, you celebrated while missing it. And oh, the rationalizations, my favorite part. I need a break. I'll listen after this episode. They need me to respond to this now. Such noble excuses. All of them. They sound wise in the mouth, but act like chains. Each one is a small agreement signed in invisible ink. The world applauds your business and calls it virtue. Because business looks like purpose when you don't want to be purposeful. But purpose is heavy. Distraction is light and fashionable. It travels well, it's easy at parties, and everyone admires those who can appear busy without actually doing the hard, sacred thing they were summoned to. Listen. Instructions. Real burning, life-saving instructions. Arrive with an edge. They don't whisper gossip. They don't offer entertainment. They carve a path. They demand a pivot. They want your whole posture. The way you breathe. The way you move. The way you leave behind the safe half-truths and distractions. They are the petty thieves who pickpocket your attention, one glittering coin at a time. By the time you feel poor, the instruction has moved on to someone less polite. Someone who answered when the phone rang, who set down their amusement and put their hand on the blade. You think you can multitask your way out of it. You imagine you can keep the bright lights of triviality on while you also follow a serious call. You cannot. Attention isn't a buffet, it's a single lamp. Where the lamp rests, there grows the world. Where it doesn't, shadows become populated with things you'll regret. Every minute you split, the voice loses its clarity. Every diverted look dulls the signal. And the signal, when it fades, is the difference between walking into an arranged rescue and stumbling into ruin. There's a kind of violence to obedience. It asks you to cut away comfort, to sever ties with the friends who keep you distracted, to cancel the meeting, to silence the device, to step into the uncomfortable and hazard the truth. You will wince. You will flinch. You will hear the groans of everyone who liked you best as background music. They'll call you selfish, dramatic, extreme, but those are the songs noise sings to keep you curled and small. The instruction doesn't ask you to please the crowd. It asks you to be alive. And when you finally answer, you'll be astonished at how much easier it is than the anxiety that built up while you were pretending. The act of listening narrows the world in the most mercilessly kind way. Suddenly, the chaos sorts itself. Pieces fall into place because something invisible is now directing them. The small pleasures haven't vanished. They're just no longer the captors they once were. You can come back to them later, but you'll carry a new taste. The taste of a life that obeyed its calling instead of applauding its own distractions. So stop trusting the loudness of the trivial. Stop mistaking motion for meaning. The voice that matters won't wait forever, and the amusements won't mourn your absence. Turn off the noise. Put your hands where the instruction asks. Breathe like someone who knows there's a blade somewhere and chooses to pick it up before the room fills with smoke and the opportunity has gone to somebody less distracted than you are. Fear is clever. It doesn't knock at your door dressed like fear. It comes in a suit of logic, a perfume of reason, whispering lines that sound so tidy, so respectable, you almost applaud yourself for listening. It tells you, be careful. Don't rush. Think this through. What if you're wrong? What if you look foolish? And you nod along. Because it doesn't feel like fear. It feels like intelligence. That's how it wins. It doesn't scream, it negotiates. It doesn't drag you by the throat. It shakes your hand and calls itself a friend. Every great instruction is stalked by this imposter. The voice says, move now. And fear disguises itself as wisdom and says, wouldn't tomorrow be safer? Wouldn't more preparation be smarter? And you, poor soul, believe the counterfeit because it soothes you. It tells you what you want to hear. That there's more time, that you don't need to risk anything yet. That waiting is just being responsible. But waiting is where destinies rot. Waiting is where opportunities die silently, never announcing their expiration. Have you noticed how fear always sounds like the sensible parent? Don't step out of line. Don't make noise. Don't embarrass yourself. Don't lose what little you have. It strokes your head while it puts shackles on your wrists. It says, I'm protecting you, while it digs the pit beneath your feet. And by the time you realize, the chance you were called to take has long passed you by. Fear doesn't need to destroy you. It just needs to convince you to pause, to hesitate, to miss the window by a second. That's all it takes. Fear has no power until you agree with it. That's the cruel part. It can howl, it can whimper, it can parade around as caution and intelligence, but it cannot actually bind you until you clasp its hand and say, yes, I'll wait. The prison doors were never locked. You locked them yourself by believing the lie. That's why most people never step into their calling. They're not chained by enemies outside. They're trapped by the polished voice of fear inside. And oh, how fear hates urgency. Nothing terrifies it more than instant obedience, because that leaves no room for its whispers. Fear needs delay like fire needs oxygen. It needs your hesitation to survive. If you cut it off with action, it suffocates. But if you grant it a single moment, it multiplies. One excuse becomes two become 10, until the whole horizon is covered in reasons why you shouldn't dare. And all the while, the voice that once rang clear becomes a faint echo you convince yourself you imagined. The worst trick fear plays is convincing you it's noble. Don't risk hurting your family. Don't upset the order of things. Don't make mistakes that could humiliate you. It wraps itself in morality, in social approval, in practical language, so that disobedience feels virtuous. You feel like a hero for ignoring the instruction that could have saved you. And people around you, who also bow to their fears, clap and nod because your cowardice mirrors theirs. The applause feels good. It feels safe. Meanwhile, the door that was open closes quietly, and you'll never even know what you missed. That's why fear is more dangerous than open opposition. An enemy who hates you is clear. A threat that roars is obvious. But fear whispers in your own voice. It sounds like your best advisor, your most rational thought. It feels like you're being careful when in truth, you're digging your own grave. And the deeper tragedy. Most never wake up to it. They go their whole lives calling their fear wisdom, never realizing that all they protected was their own stagnation. The voice that calls you doesn't need your analysis. It needs your response. But fear will always try to intercept, to repaint urgency as recklessness, to paint obedience as impulsiveness. And if you listen, you'll die safe, comfortable, surrounded by excuses that look so pretty they could be framed. That's how fear wants you intact, but empty. Breathing, but never alive. Afraid of the very path that was meant to free you. Strength is not born in quiet rooms with soft chairs and applause. Strength is forged where the air tastes like iron, where risk stands in front of you like a beast with teeth, daring you to move closer. You think muscles come from comfort. No, they tear, they burn, they ache. The same law applies to your soul. Growth demands collision. It demands you walk straight into the fire you swore you couldn't endure and discover that the flames don't kill you. They burn off the parts that were holding you back. Risk isn't some optional add onto life. It's the gatekeeper of strength. Every step that matters costs something. You don't sharpen a blade by setting it gently on silk. You grind it against stone. And yet, how many hide behind their excuses, waiting for strength to magically appear before daring to face risk? That's not how it works. Strength doesn't arrive before the fight. It's delivered in the middle of it, bleeding, screaming, clawing its way out of you when everything in you begs to give up. Collision is chaos, yes, but it's holy chaos. It strips away illusions. It shows you who you are without the safety nets and the masks. Risk forces you to stop pretending. When the stakes are high, your excuses don't survive. Only what's real stays standing. And that's where strength is born. Not in theory, not in speeches, but in the sweat, soaked. Nerve, shredding act of doing what could destroy you and realizing you've come out the other side still breathing. People love to worship strength from a distance. They clap for heroes. They write songs about survivors. They build statues for the ones who dared. But they rarely see the price. The trembling hands, the nights filled with doubt, the whispers that said, "Turn back before it's too late." They don't see the fear that was swallowed, the failures that were endured, the humiliation carried like a second skin. All they see is the result. And they crave the crown without wanting the collision that forged it. Strength without risk is a fantasy, and fantasies keep you weak. The world loves fantasies because fantasies keep you tame. They tell you, you'll be strong one day when you're ready, when conditions are right, when everything aligns. Lies. Strength doesn't wait for you to be ready. It drags you out while you're shaking, while you're underprepared, while you're screaming that you can't do it. And then, in the clash, in the impact, you discover you could. That's when strength plants itself in your bones. Risk feels unfair. It feels like punishment. Why must you bleed to grow? Why must you lose to learn? Because comfort never carved anyone into something immortal. Comfort cushions you into mediocrity. Risk cracks you open so the power buried beneath your fear can finally escape. You don't know what you're capable of until the threat of loss is breathing down your neck. Only then does something primal awaken, something that refuses to bow. That's the gift hidden inside risk. It awakens the part of you that no safe moment could ever touch. The world will tell you to avoid risk, to choose stability, to stay safe. But listen closely, the safest path is the most dangerous one. It kills you slowly. It robs you of strength, of growth, of the chance to find out who you really are. You may live longer walking in safety, but you'll die long before your body does. Because without collision, without risk, without the test, you remain soft, unshaped, unfinished. Strength grows in the exact place you swore you'd collapse. It grows in the nights you thought would break you, in the betrayals that nearly crushed you, in the risks that made you tremble, but you took anyway. And when you emerge, scarred but unbroken, you realize those scars aren't weaknesses. They're proof you didn't run. Proof you stood. Proof you grew where others shrank back. That's what strength really is, not the absence of fear, but the defiance to walk into risk and let it carve you into something untouchable.